Certain countries cherish people who show potential to improve the government and the nation at large. Currently in South Africa, we have insecure, dull, and evil people who would rather be right than be helped by those who know better than them. It's a shame, really. Before we begin, welcome to Citizen Concerned, where we remind you to beware of the Comrades. I'm Katlego and would appreciate it if you subscribed to our YouTube channel, liked and shared this video with other citizens.
First-year computer science students at Stellenbosch University, Cedras and Veer, Gosai, claim to have uncovered massive fraud in the social relief of distress grant that's administered by the South African Social Security Agency, SASSA. Now, fraudsters are alleged to use unsuspecting citizens' identity numbers in order to apply for the SRD grant, and they then receive the funds in bank accounts that they've set up using the same ID numbers. Now, this fraud is said to involve tens of thousands of fraudulent social relief of distress grant applications. We joined virtually now by Veer Gosai, who's a first-year geoinformatics student majoring in computer science from the University of Stellenbosch, and Executive Manager Grants Administration at SASSA, Brenton van Vrede, also with us.
In the SASSA video, I noticed something that really irritated me about this foolish government employee. The 19-year-old first-year students managed to figure out that they are victims of identity theft.
Initially, this all started when me and Joel, we personally checked if our SASSA grants were being stolen, and we were shocked to find out that there were bank accounts on our name opened without our knowledge, and SASSA applications created, and people were actually receiving payments on our behalf.
They've made the public know about it as they have announced it to the country. Great, right? In better societies, SASSA would have put those boys on a flight and brought them in for a chat about solutions and improvements, paid for their hotel expenses and given them a reward. Not this buffoon.
I think maybe just to give a little bit of context, and I think maybe the unfortunate part in this is that Veer Joe did not necessarily reach out to SASSA.
The first complaint he has is that they should have contacted us first before they went public with their findings. These 19-year-old first-year computer students managed to find out that there is a massive corruption scheme at SASSA, and the first thing that came into your mind is, why did you not come to talk to us first? Really? Imagine the audacity of these people. And it is a prevalent attitude within South Africa, unfortunately. A bunch of people who act like they own things that they do not own, wanting to be consulted first instead of answering the question, wanting to assert their importance instead of addressing the issue. When the 19-year-old student responds, he informs us all that they actually did try to reach out to SASSA, but struggled to get to talk to someone who could look into this matter.
We did not reach out to SASSA specifically in a media capacity, representing Ground Up. But the biggest concern we had is we did reach out to SASSA. We reached out as normal customers. We phoned the telephone lines. Most of them do not work already, which was shocking to find out. And the national hotline didn't seem to help us.
And I like the way that the young gentleman puts it. He tried to reach SASSA using the channels that a normal citizen would be able to use. What do I do when I need to chat to a government entity? I call them on their publicly listed numbers. But listen to this clown's response.
Mr. Gosai actually explained that they did reach out to SASSA via the available avenues, but unfortunately had no response. And Mr. Joel Cedras, his account, his ID details are still being used in terms of this SRD grant.
You've reached out to us, Sakina. We've responded to you. Ground Up has reached out to us. We've responded to them. Part FM, when they first went live with this interview on Thursday, Friday we were operating with them as well. So we are reachable, and maybe it's just the channels that the students use that they've not been able to reach us.
SABC reached us. There was something wrong with the channels that the students tried to use. Can you imagine the audacity of this clown? How disrespectful do you have to be to disregard the experiences that we as citizens all know are occurring? The young man just told you that they tried to reach your organization and the phones were not working. Knowing the reputation of government entity phones, instead of being humble about it and maybe even apologizing, what do? You are trying to make it seem like maybe there was something wrong with their phones or maybe how they dialed your number. I know exactly what he means when he says the national hotlines didn't seem to help. We have called some in search of various information. It's either there is no answer at all, or when there is an answer, it's rare for you to get help for something that is outside the normal scope of the person on the other side of the phone. Basically, the call centers usually have these rude people, especially ladies, who only know what they have been trained for. They know how to transfer the calls, maybe, but if you tell them that I need to speak to someone from security or someone from your app development side, they blank out. They usually don't know what to do, but the main issue I notice is what he said. Most of the lines don't work. That is a fact. Imagine, maybe there was something wrong with the channels that they were trying to use. What kind of an excuse is that? And then you make up the story that SABC was able to reach you. We know that ministers and government employees are more scared of journalists than they are of citizens. We know that if journalists reach out, you guys do respond. What's more, journalists have many ways that they can try to reach you, and citizens may struggle where a journalist would not. This is exactly what the clown was asked.
And I think importantly, what Veer Gosai says there, they went through the process that any ordinary South African would need to walk through in trying to reach SASSA, not SABC News calling, or ground up calling, but just an ordinary South African and what they are told to do in order to get in touch with you.
I was happy when I heard this. I was like, finally, let's hear what this loony is going to say to that.
Thanks. So yes, Joel is correct. As I mentioned, we've got over 2 million applications blocked at the moment. And you can imagine that is a large amount for our call center to deal with in terms of clients coming forward. Hence, I mentioned previously that even though we are allowed to cancel applications after 6 months, we haven't necessarily implemented that yet because we do know that there's a challenge that people. First of all, as I mentioned, it's a challenge for people first to get their smart IDs through Home Affairs, which may take a bit of time, plus as well the resource constraints on our side for them to get through to us. So we do keep that system open as well.
He dodged the question. Imagine, he simply refused to answer. Either he's not very sharp or he has the ANC bug, the bug of pride and always trying to defend the indefensible.
However, noting Joel and Veer, that you're coming from a different place, not necessarily the customer space, but from a sort of ethical hacking point of view, and that's the different standard that you need to be held to. But that said, I kind of lost the question. So can you repeat it for me again?
Now he even demands that a 19-year-old be held to some higher standard because he comes from the space of an ethical hacker. What standards do ethical hackers have to meet? The young men did what they could. This man is pathetic. I can't believe that he is in charge of a large sum of our money as taxpayers, guys. I can't. He's asked a simple question and simply starts droning. If I had my way, this young 19-year-old student would take this guy's job. The SASSA employee can go and study political sciences along with the other comrades in university. The young student is informing us that his ID and his friend's ID, among many, many others, were used to steal money from the government. That is not the government's money, by the way. That is our money. Your money and my money. He's saying do something so that our IDs do not get used for crimes like these. Do something so that people are not able to steal money using just an ID and a fraudulent number.
We were told specific things, 2 weeks ago that our issue would be dealt with and that it would be resolved within a turnaround time of a few days. But my friend Joel Cedras, and my partner in this, is still currently waiting for a response from SASSA. His SASSA grant that he called about 2 weeks ago has not been resolved. His ID number is still being fraudulently used on a fraudulent phone number.
After reporting the issue and being told the issue would be resolved, the SASSA people have still not managed to block these ID numbers from getting payouts.
Yeah, this is not this story has been in the media since January last year. So, for example, if you take the Ground Up article that was released on Monday, Ground Up themselves published this in January last year.
He confirmed that this issue has been in existence since being reported on by Ground Up last year.
Yes, so as I mentioned, we've got about 2 million applications, which we suspect, and remember, we can't definitively say it's fraud, because a lot of clients have also come forward and unblock their accounts. So we've got about 2 million applications that we've suspended because we suspect that those could have been fraudulently made. And when a client does that, so as for example, Joel says his ID is one of those IDs, you then have to call our call center. What they will then do is send you a...
So you have blocked 2 million applications, but you can't verify if those ID numbers were used fraudulently, and you need people who have no clue that their ID numbers have been used to commit these suspected crimes to come forward. How would they know they need to come forward? According to this clown, they have sophisticated algorithms that help to pick up cases where fraud is happening. Then he immediately turns around and says they also cannot be sure that fraud is what is happening until the victims of fraud come forward. Imagine. These students were simply doing an experiment. They did not suspect that they were victims of identity theft. Most of us are not going to run around going to SASSA to say, I suspect that I'm a victim of identity theft, if we have not seen any sign of it. I have never applied for a grant. If someone steals my ID number or documents to open a SASSA account while using a different cell number, how am I supposed to start suspecting that I'm a victim of identity theft? Why would I assume that my ID has been used at SASSA? Are you seeing how stupid this sounds? Sakina, the news anchor, obviously can see that this clown is talking nonsense, so she asks.
The other thing that you mentioned, Mr. Van Vrede, is that people must come forward if they suspect, that their identity numbers are being fraudulently used. But how would people know? Someone could be using my ID number. How would I know that this is happening?
Listen to this unbelievably stupid answer from this man.
So if you would come forward if you needed a grant. If you don't need a grant, your number will just remain blocked on our system, and that application will eventually be cancelled. So we've got a process, or basically by law, we are allowed to cancel applications after a period of 6 months once we've put out the necessary communication to you. So when we suspect you've committed fraud, we would then send you a message saying, please, and because we don't know, so we suspect you've committed fraud, we would send you a message saying you need to go through this process to unblock your account because you we won't necessarily tell you you committed fraud, but we'll just tell you need to do this to finalize your application. If you're a genuine person, you come forward and you would unlock your account, and that process would complete itself.
When these corrupt people steal your identity, they don't use your cell phone number. What kind of brain is inside this man?
And if not, over a process of time, we then delete your application. However, we do also acknowledge challenges that we currently have, noting the client base that we serve. And if you look, as I mentioned, if you look at most of the complaints of the course of the last year, is that the systems are too stringent. But again, you've got to balance the risk of fraud versus accessibility to our clients, which I think was something I commend the students for as well. They acknowledged in their first interview that one also has to make your systems accessible. So we haven't quite implemented the cancelling of applications yet because the biometric identification that clients have to do requires you to get a smart ID. So people would first have to go to Home Affairs, get a smart ID if they're still using a green book.
What on earth was that hogwash? Mumbo jumbo of words. The question was simple. How or why would a person know that their ID number has been used fraudulently to create an application? He starts talking about things totally unrelated to the question, off topic, overpaid and not very sharp. I like how this young man is trying to get into the head of this incompetent man by trying to explain to him what these problems are. He tried, Shane. He really tried. He has common sense that is terrifyingly rare. Listen to this.
We don't believe SASSA is able to we don't believe SASSA is able to handle the influx of users. And it's very problematic then to say we should not cancel the system when Joel's current SASSA grant and my active SASSA grant are still not registered on my own phone number. You cannot have a system in place which only verifies name, surname, and ID number in order to open up an application.
Simple logic. If this is my ID number, you have my ID number in your system still, and it is still connected to someone else's cell phone number. It's really not rocket science. These are billions of rands. Criminals are stealing taxpayers' money. Hence, the students are saying you have to have more ways to verify the identity of the applicant. You cannot just ask for the name and the ID number and that's it. You grant the applicant our money. You can't do that.
We did not get into the system. Rather, we discovered SASSA used a very badly designed way to test for ID numbers that was publicly available. And when testing the system, I want to just give you a little bit of the data. We tested all 300,000 possible IDs for February 2005 born individuals. And what we ended up finding was about 74,000 positive active applications available. And when we checked
the student clearly states that they tested the ID numbers of 60 people who willingly provided their ID numbers. He also stated that they tested a total of 300,000 possible combinations of ID numbers, and of that, they managed to figure out that 74,000 of those ID numbers have active applications on SASSA. That is concerning, right? It is definitely concerning. What he and his partner found is essential. But in conclusion, listen to how this man closes the interview.
Access whether or not active application is available on that person's name. Noting, though, they did not get ID numbers, etc., from us. They got that by hacking a third-party source. So they would have gotten the ID numbers as well as the telephone numbers used for the applications from a third-party source. They would not have gotten that from us.
So these young students hacked which third-party source to get the ID numbers? Veer clearly indicated that he and his colleague Joel simply entered their own ID numbers. They did a survey of 60 people, which means in that case, they got the ID numbers legally. And then the other ID numbers of 300,000 were simply pulled from thin air from random guesses. So who did they hack to get the numbers from? What third source is this buffoon talking about? Someone is here to help you do your job better, trying to protect our tax money, and instead of you allowing him to, you are trying to claim that the same person who has shown the country a flaw in your organization is a criminal for doing so.
Also respond to an OTP. You would get an OTP, which would be sent to that cell phone number. So unless you actually had that cell phone number to get the more detailed information, you would need the actual cell phone number to get an OTP.
He says the ID numbers and the telephone numbers are the combination needed, and yet these students told you they didn't need the cell phone numbers. They simply needed their ID numbers. On your SASSA system, their accounts are linked to cell phone numbers that are not theirs, so you don't need the cell phone number in this case. The criminals simply use those pre-recut SIM cards we mentioned 2 weeks ago. Vodacom, MTN, Cell C, ANC have failed on the RICA side. They are allowing criminals to get their hands on SIM cards RICA'd illegally. After that happens, the criminals use some of those SIM cards to open SASSA accounts with stolen ID, and voila, the money gets stolen. And this SASSA official is acting like they are running a secure system. What a loony. At the end of this, instead of getting a thank you from this clown, the talented student is now being accused of committing a crime. Apparently, they stole people's identities now. What is wrong with this man? Shame on you, sir. You ought to be ashamed. Seriously. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please join our channel membership or donate to our account in the description box below. I'm Katlego. This is Citizen Concerned. And until next time, beware of the comrades.